I think we're missing a crucial element in our world today, and that's leadership. Now I mean honest to goodness, upright, forthcoming, ethical, and virtuous leadership. I'm not suggesting we have no leaders. We elect them, we hire them, and we appoint them all the time. I'm saying we have a deficiency of the caliber of leadership that actually leads and helps to create new leaders of the same stripe. Now what am I talking about? Well, we've seen as part of the collapse of our financial markets, executives taking exorbitant salaries and bonuses even if, and especially when, their companies fail. In the real world, that just doesn't happen. As a person, not just as a pastor, I would feel embarrassed even thinking about cashing that particular check. Now that's just the tip of the iceberg. I think we can point to a very specific problem that is plaguing leaders in all parts of the world, in all sectors. And since it receives the most coverage, we see it most in the actions and words of politicians. For example, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. She finds herself in a sticky situation after claiming the CIA misled Congress about torture of prisoners at the detention facility in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. While I'm not sure her statement can be completely thrown out, she certainly decided to cover her tracks by throwing an entire agency under the proverbial bus. There's no example of good leadership to be found there. Then we have Chairman of the Republican National Committee, Michael Steele. You may remember a while back, he made some comments that got him into hot water with other Republicans. Instead of admitting error or standing behind what he said even, he claimed that the comments were part of a strategy that he was employing, not that they were mistakes or anything. Anyone with a pulse could tell that he wasn't exactly being forthcoming. Deflection and deception, not good leadership qualities. During the final week of his presidency, George W. Bush was asked many times what he felt were some of the mistakes that he made during his presidency. While some of those questions were asked in an attempt to procure some sort of gotcha moment, he ducked them almost completely anyway. In his final press conference, the former president said he may have landed Air Force One in Louisiana during the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, and felt disappointed about the atrocities at Abu Ghraib. I completely understand not wanting to air one's dirty laundry before the whole country. No one can fault the president for that. However, his answering of those questions showed a lack of willingness to admit when one may have been wrong. Not the best example of leadership there. Now, I wanted to share a letter that was written by General Dwight D. Eisenhower, of which I have a copy right here. You'll see little scratched out marks, and it's dated down here July 5th. Pay attention to that specifically as I read. In a handwritten note, then General Dwight D. Eisenhower takes responsibility for the failure of Operation Overlord, the D-Day invasion of Normandy. There are plenty of scratched out words that were replaced by even stronger words that essentially were pointing to his responsibility for the mission's failure. Now, there are plenty of people heading this operation, but he takes personal responsibility for that. The last line of the note says, "If there is any blame or fault to be had, it is mine alone." It was written on the eve of the invasion and dated for July 5th. General Eisenhower knew that the success of the invasion wasn't certain. He didn't know what it would turn out to be, was one of the final nails in Nazi Germany's coffin. Yet he was willing to take full responsibility for a failed operation in northern France had it been as such. The Allies were successful, and World War II ended in part due to their heroic efforts. What this note shows us, though, is what leadership is truly all about. Eisenhower and the Allied forces were eventually successful in their mission, but this man, who would eventually become president, as we all know, was willing to stake the rest of his life on what he knew was the right thing to do. Knowing what needs to be done and doing it, even if it may be difficult or hurt you personally. Being strong enough to take responsibility if things go wrong. Deflection and deception have no place in leadership positions. This is what creates a good leader. Great leaders don't worry about what the history books will say about them and base their actions off of that either. Great leaders don't look for ways to deflect bad decisions onto others. They take responsibility for them, even if it may hurt. Great leaders put themselves out front and make the people around them better, not look for a way to blame everything on somebody else. My point is, where are those leaders today? We've been sort of corrupted by this brand of leadership that says, you know what, I didn't do anything wrong. It was this person or that person. Not being willing to make the decisions that need to be made and stand by them even if they may go wrong. Where are those leaders today? I hope you're one of them. I work hard to become one. Hopefully I'm getting there. I pray God grants you and I the strength to be one of those leaders. Because it does take strength. The strength only He can provide.